Well,
All right,
to...
we are live, right on time. We got Dr. Rick joining us. Jeremy, south of Detroit, some foreign land.
Thanks to NewsZip for sponsoring today's T-shirt. Looks great.
I think you have a hat, Jeremy. You should have worn that.
I have both, dude. I should have. If I had known today was T-shirt day, I'd have my hat and my shirt.
Can you fit a hat over your new cut?
Yeah, dude. Always. Look at that.
So why don't we at least just do the introduction? I know that that Kevin's going to be joining us here shortly, hopefully shortly. But I confirmed with him, and I sent him the StreamYard link. But as everybody knows who's joining here, of course, that RealFridays is an opportunity for three industry experts to really get into the ins and outs of the mortgage, housing, and real estate, and to speak kind of real about the events and what's happening, with companies or technology or, market trends, or, to comment on candidly about market headlines. So I'm sure we'll probably repeat that when Kevin gets on, but I think that's a good way of starting the week.
Guys.
This is great. I'm so happy to have you guys all together here. Oh, is that Kevin joining us here? Did you let him in?
Yes.
Hey guys, sorry, I've got 4 kids here. I'm shooing them out into the yard. I've got a cleaning lady here. It's Friday. It's crazy. I'm setting up. I'm gonna start off audio, but I'll come in. I promise.
It's great, man. Rick had just gotten finished saying, like, this is how we do Real Fridays. This is what makes it this. So you're supposed to be doing that. It's all part of the show. We appreciate it.
Are you at a golf tournament?
I wish. I was at the golf tournament yesterday. I wanted to know how close I am to your old stomping grounds, man. I was at the golf tournament yesterday, and I had to fly down to Dallas-Fort Worth, and I'm in Popple. So I don't know if you're...
Not too far.
Not too far?
Yeah, you're off 635. I'm the other way, but you're not too far.
Yeah, right on.
Because you're in Newport Beach, right, Kevin? Or where are you at in Orange County?
Yeah, yes, but I'm from Garland, which is like a north suburb of Dallas.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's where you are, Jeremy.
That's where I am today. So he's referring to the Rocket Mortgage Classic, which is going on golf in Detroit, #played in Detroit this weekend. So if you haven't checked in, definitely check in with the tournament and see. But it's looking good.
How was it?
So far, good turnout for a Thursday.
How was the turnout? How was how's our friends at Roque doing out there?
I thought it was a good turnout for a Thursday. I thought there was a lot to watch. Definitely not the star-studded lineup. When the PGA and LIV were going back and forth and they were encouraging the tour players to play every single tournament no matter what, that was last year. There was tons of the top 50 golfers, top 20 golfers in the world. This year, there's actually some really cool young players to watch. But I think, like Ricky Fowler's there. Cam Young had a great round. Latia hit a 64, played a 64 yesterday. So there's some cool stuff to watch.
Akshay Bhatia, yeah.
Bhatia, yeah. That was great. So there's a lot of fun stuff to watch.
Any surprises? Anyone that didn't perform that you thought should have performed better?
Oh, the little scouting report, PGA scouting report here. The cut line is at +1 right now, I think, or something like that. And there were a couple of your, what I would call veterans, like fun veterans to watch, like the Webb Simpson, Stuart Sink, Matt Kuchar, Francisco Molinari. I don't think any of them are above the cut line yet, or about to be. So it's definitely like a lot of youth and a lot of an international flavor to the leaderboard.
That's cool. Amazing. It's just a changing landscape, but probably in all industries. The youth are taking over. It's incredible. And we don't even know if this is the real KP. We don't even know if this is the real KP. I mean, this could be some sort of an AI instrument that PRMG has put together.
Upload your likeness into a voice.
Yeah, just his voice, and they just, I don't know. It's kind of an interactive script.
Yeah, what a waste of resources.
You don't think you could do your appearance fees for 3x your appearance fees, KP, if you had 3 versions of yourself out there?
Wait, he gets appearance fees?
Again, what a waste of resources. What a parent's piece. What are you talking about?
You guys
I
are
do
paying him?
everything for free.
I've been paying him every month.
No.
What are you doing with my Venmo, man?
Jeez.
Just kidding.
Yeah, this is great. So I know, Kevin, you were at the
right.
Total Expert Conference. The Total Expert Conference this week. What would you say to be like your main takeaways, or the things that you thought either surprised you or you found helpful for PRMG?
Well, I think tech investment is alive and kicking in our business. That was my biggest takeaway. So, you know, Total Expert has set out to be Salesforce for our industry, at least starting in our industry. I know they want to go to other verticals. And I got to tell you, I mean, the roadmap that they said, hey, here's what we achieved in the last year and here's what's going on next year is solid, right? You know, they've got a mobile app for LOs. They're, you know, every tech company has a decision to make about how much they're going to invest in AI, right? And so, you know, I'm on their customer advisory board, and I was in there Monday. We had all day meeting from 9 to 4, and don't worry, I showed up at 9:30. So I was only 1 minute late for you guys. I was 30 for them. But I'll tell you, you know, I brought up an example and a decision that we had, and they had the same kind of decision, right? Like, so we were on Zendesk ticketing email systems for years, and I wanted to step up our game in the support desk internally. Now, again, to make the Salesforce analogy, some of our biggest competitors, they built everything on Salesforce Services Cloud. So they're beholden to Salesforce pricing, Salesforce's, you know, decision on their own profitability, and they built that tech. And so, you know, that's something to think about when you build those kinds of things internally. And I know ServiceNow is a vendor that's out there where you can go with a portal, but I just felt like, why go to the portal when we could skip that step and go from email straight to AI? And so we went with Capacity, and we've never looked back. And we're very, very blessed that we chose that particular option. And again, you know, Total Expert is in a similar situation, and they're making that big leap over. They're leapfrogging a step in the middle to try and implement AI into their content creation, inside their ecosystem, inside their environment, to enable all the top IMBs and all of their banks and all of their clients, you know, to have, you know, best in breed, you know, tech. And so AI is really changing everyone's decisions in the market right now.
Oh yeah, you know, I am pretty impressed. You know, I had several conversations when I was over at Cross Country to have conversations with Joe. I don't know him personally very well, but I am pretty impressed with his leadership, because you know, as you know, Kevin, CRM is you know, mortgage is a graveyard for CRMs over the last 25 years. So many CRMs that just have never been able to get out of the ditch, that $3 to $6 million a year kind of ditch, and so, you know, to see that someone actually, like, I never really considered Surefire like a real CRM. You know, it was a good sort of loan status update kind of solution. And I know Mark Reed really well, and he did really well for himself in selling it. But I just never really looked at that as a very comprehensive CRM solution. And Total Expert's really the first one that I've seen that's, you know, I've used Salesforce for 15 years. It's probably the first one that I've seen that really does the job that pretty much everyone doesn't or hasn't been able to do. You know, so I credit Joe's leadership for that, because it's not an easy space given the market and the bubbles of production and how revenue comes and goes for these tech vendors, to be able to raise the capital to deploy it, you know, in a smart and intelligent way, and still be able to capture, you know, market share. You know,
Joe's a solid operator. He's a great leader, and we've gotten to know him over the years. He is. He you know what, he feels like what we feel. You know, it's just like, you know, I'm talking to a guy that has, you know, one of their investors is Georgian, which is a great venture capital firm. Really, you know, in the AI space, they have AI labs, they have access to open AI and all kinds of stuff. And yet he's like, man, he's like, I feel what everyone's going through the last 2 years and how tough it is, because obviously they're tied to us and they went through it as well. But then at the end of the day, he knows it's about deal flow, right? It's about creating deal flow. And so I like where they're going. You know, they've kind of created this again, to make the Salesforce analogy, they're creating a marketplace. They introduced Maxa Design, which is kind of like a Canva. It's like a content creation engine. I had a chance to meet their owner, James. He's from the LA area. I've had that tech on our radar for a couple of years. And what's interesting is Joe's like, hey, our oldest code in the whole CRM is our content creation library. So I could spend all this money redoing code and building it and spending all the resources, or I could say, hey, here's what we think is a best-in-class option. We'll open up the ecosystem and you can use it, you know, on a per-click basis, right? Yeah. And so I'm praying that they'll do the same thing with Social Coach, which is a great vendor for like your social selling, you know, kind of a good replacement for like your video and your video creation. And again, to make the analogy like Salesforce, they have this ecosystem where you could, you know, pick this one, 12 different vendors, and you can truly customize your marketing and marketing automation and your MarTech. And so there's something pretty powerful for that. So I think a lot of vendor partners around the outside, if they want to be inside this independent mortgage banker network, this enterprise distributed retail CRM ecosystem, you come in there and, you know, you negotiate with Joe and team and you make it work. So, you know, I like where Joe and team are going. I like what they're doing. And, you know, nobody makes it without their challenges in this industry or business and economy. But, you know, it was a really good event until that Expert Accelerate the last few days.
Yeah, Kevin, you've made a solid case. Go ahead, Brock.
I was going to say, we are recently kind of in, I guess we call it phase 1 or phase 0 of being an integration partner for Total Expert. We built some nice real estate journeys for clients that aren't ready to transact yet and stuff like that to keep them up to date on what's going on in their market that they're searching in, or home values, stuff like that. So that's been fun. I think we're officially on their website this week or next week. So we're a little late for the game for this event, but I'd been to Accelerate a couple of years ago. I think that event itself is really good. I'm sure it was great this year.
I agree. I love how, you know, you and your team are out on the road as well. You guys are out there. Well, we met in San Diego a year and a half ago at the IMB event, the Rice Park Capital dinner that was held, and you know, it's trying to find great tech companies like yours that are trying to make you know develop business in the market, and I think it's great. I love the fact that you guys are having those conversations, because I think, you know, to Rick's point about you know, all the different CRMs out there, you know, it's like it's a joke, right? Like you go to like any originator chat board, you know, the joke question is, what's the best CRM, right? And you know, and there are actually new originators that get in the business and they actually ask that question because they don't know. But you know, the joke response is the one you use, right? But I think there is some separation, and so, you know, Jeremy, I don't want to dominate the conversation. You had something you were going to say here a second ago.
No, Kevin, this is right on point with my question, which was, you mentioned, so the two things that stood out to me that you just mentioned that have come up for me this week. One was, how do I get started with this? Do I trust this technology, and how do I get started? You kind of mentioned how, okay, there's this customized suite of tools and I can pick and choose mine and how many there are. But I want you to say a little more, because I think that's really important to get started. But I want you to say a little more about, how do we make it that you actually create content that doesn't feel the same as everybody else? Meaning that you're not actually, you are differentiating yourself, and maybe just for you and your originators, but even larger for the industry. How do I go into a suite of tools, but then also know that I'm going to be able to build things that aren't indicative of something everybody else has, or looks like what everybody else has?
It's funny because we were kind of having this conversation, you know, in the customer advisory board. They made the official announcement that Maxa Design would be in the ecosystem for people to pick to create content. And so they showed this kind of like this video of like a teaser video, if you will. And I'm watching the teaser video. Baby, close the door. I was watching the teaser video, and in the teaser video, they're showing a flyer and how easily you can like edit the copy and move the logo and choose your color. And I was just thinking like, isn't AI going to just do all that? Like, is someone going to do all that by hand? You know, and that's what made me have a thought about, you know, skipping a step. And so, but then, you know, even AI generated content has kind of its own style. Like you can almost tell that it's AI, right? And so, you know, they're not, you know, and of course it depends on the prompt, but, and so I'm thinking like, are they missing the boat by creating some content creation engine that requires so much manual work? But then, you know, people still send handwritten notes to stand out, and people still make phone calls, which I think phone calls is the ultimate, you know, way to conduct business no matter what. So I think it's kind of like, how do you find that combination of marrying, you know, AI and new tech, and where it's going to meet creativity, artistry, and at the end of the day, I think that there's still original thought. You know, I don't know how much original thought AI generates, because it is learning from something that's already out there, right? Like I don't think it's making up anything. It's machine learning, looking through large language models. And so, you know, someone's going to come up with something and say something that's never been said before, that isn't in a large language model, and that stands out, you know? So, you know, you worked at Roque, push button, get mortgage. It's brilliant, right? It was like, it encapsulated, you know, how, this is how easy it is, you know, to get a mortgage. You just push a button, get a mortgage. And, you know, could that slogan have been created through an AI generated machine? I mean, I guess the world will never know because a human beat them to the punch. But my guess is there'll be, you know, some inspiration that comes from all these little word jumble salads that you get out of large language models that makes someone have a thought. So I still think AI is going to just empower people, you know, to be, you know, to be more creative and maybe get their juices flowing. I don't think it's a panacea. Good to see you, BB. I saw you in the comments.
Yeah, right on. Hey, Brian.
Yeah, I was going to say, Kevin, where do you see the efficiency actually cross the threshold between something that's just slick and more efficient versus something that actually is going to drive or increase more production? Like where and what application of AI do you think is going to do that?
For 5 years, my car. I mean, you know, people like, you know, people that think Tesla is just a car company just don't fucking get it. They just don't get it. They've had eyeballs on the world for like over a decade. They're literally watching and collecting data on the planet and how we operate and how stupid humans are when they frickin' dart out in front of traffic as a pedestrian. I mean, that is gathering intelligence. My car drives itself. Okay. So like right now, this wouldn't have been the only time, but I'm on Zoom calls while I'm being transported to work. And so for me, compressing a 40-minute commute to also be productive and hang out with some great minds like you guys and do a call, that's AI in work right now for years. So I can't wait for autonomous driving. And that is the workplace. I mean, I have been given time back to let my car drive me home, which by the way, it drives me home when I'm drinking. So it protects the asset of PRMG. So that's another cool thing about it. If you have an elderly parent, and, you know, I couldn't even watch the debate last night because I just didn't want to see it. You know, my dad had mental decline. He died 3 years ago of Parkinson's, and I know what Biden is going through, and it falls off fast. And I didn't want to watch an old man be humiliated on stage, not for any political reasons. And so, but my dad, we had to take his car keys away at one point. If I give him a Tesla, he's got mobility. He can still get out and shuffle his feet and get out of the car, but at least he can go down the street and grab some bread or, you know, or whatever it is that he's doing. And so, you know, autonomous driving for elderly parents, for designated driving, for safe driving, to protect human lives, to compress time. I'm all in on that. To me is absolutely the best AI case I have ever seen to date.
But what about in mortgage though? Where do you see
I mean, I'm a mortgage guy. I mean, what do you mean? Like I fucking run a company with 1,500 people. Like, don't let me die and let me do twice as much shit. You know, but all kidding. We are a Microsoft platform. We use Azure, and I think Microsoft is leading the productivity and business of AI. We use Copilot. I've been on their seats all year. I don't use it a whole lot, but for example, if someone sends me like a Word document or a PDF, I can just say, Copilot, summarize, and it gives me the bullet points. And I can read the bullet points. And then I've been back testing it, and actually reading the entire 5-page document. It's pretty close. Like there might be like a little aha moment that might be a sentence that it doesn't encapsulate that makes me have an individual thought that then I'm like, okay, I get this, or I bet they haven't thought of this, or if they haven't, here's my take on it. And so, but just for productivity and like going through things like that, I think it's fantastic for summarizing stuff. It helps with email. So we're using productivity in Microsoft Office with Copilot now. That's been great. I mentioned Social Coach before. If you want to create content at scale, it's got ChatGPT right in the app. You just give it the prompt, spits it out, knocks some things out. It's pretty good at content creation at scale. And so, I think most modern digital marketers think that marketing is going to go to tailored, customized marketing for every human being in their database, speaking to that person on their specific situation. So I'm not going to read 600,000 records of PRMG clients in the past and find out what their FICO score is, what their loan is, what their equity is, what their cash out is. But I could rip through 600,000 records in no time, and I could create 600,000 pieces of content that says, hey, Brock, Jeremy, and Rick, your mortgage is X. I will pay, I will save you $17, $170, and $33 a month based on this rate, this, and this. Crank it out, text it to you, email it to you at scale, right to your inbox, right to your phone, telling you exactly what you need to do to save exactly how much money on your specific situation. And that's where I think, and those are things we're talking about at the Total Expert Accelerate. And those are the things that I think AI will help us do at scale. And then if I want to do a video to go inside with those tailored marketing pieces with my voice and my picture and my likeness, I can speak in my voice at scale using some kind of AI-enabled tool. So that's where I think it's going in mortgage, and I think that's a powerful way to separate yourself, where someone's talking to you specifically about your situation. And I know marketers have been trying to do that for years, and we all get our direct mails and all that kind of stuff. We get phone calls that we don't take now. So, I just think it's the next level.
Yeah, I think, Rick, that's a great point, which is what comes to mind for me. We don't have a great history of lowering hard costs through the first wave of technology. It's not the first wave of technology that generally lowers hard costs, particularly in this industry. So it's going to be making people more effective beforehand. Then from there, you could start to get some trust and roll out some other stuff. I mean, I think, KP, your point about, like, say, take the debate, for instance. Like, I didn't even realize it was happening. So, like, that's on me, I suppose, to not even realize it. But the reason I wouldn't have watched it if I had known, is because AI probably could have predicted that thing. Honestly, it's like
there's no way it would have predicted them talking about their golf handicaps.
Well, that's
true. So
like,
that's amazing, right? And so the meme world just took that little piece and that's how I caught up. I was like, this is the most interesting. They're arguing about their handicaps.
And so I think this ability to like crank through, like for a CEO, you're talking about crank through 6,000 records, tell me what I need to know was the most common answer. Crank through 6,000 surveys, tell me what I need to know really fast, instead of needing, and putting our folks on bigger and harder things. as a result of that. And then, you know, eventually, look, I had a leader at early days, Quicken Loans, legal. That's where I got my start. And he was like, I've not seen us lower costs as an industry. He's like, so Jeremy, you're all about it. I get it. But, you know, keep a little bit of skepticism because it's very, very difficult. It's
but you
all
guys
this
did.
investment, all this technology. No, and so it was there, and you could measure it. And you could
You guys took the biggest one. I mean, the biggest one, like LO compensation is the biggest cost to produce, right?
Yep.
And so,
Yep.
so this isn't a knock on originators. I'm just stating math, science, data, and facts.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys nailed that.
That's right. That's right. And so I think like being able to pinpoint as well, like one of the things we're getting better and better at as a result of the workflow automation, as a result of the cost analysis that people are doing, you can actually get really targeted. So if you wanted to deploy, how do we do this next and this next? I haven't seen anybody build a really tremendous roadmap, but you could build some pretty interesting roadmaps starting with your biggest cost and elevate those and go. I think that's been a theme we've heard that you just kind of confirmed.
Well, you guys did a masterful job. I mean, and look, I mean, our company at PRMG is built by originators for originators. You know, we're not consumer direct, right? That's not our model. But we do look at the costs, and the originator compensation commission, which we're tied to for business development in our organizations, is the single biggest cost. You guys went out and said, push button, get mortgage, click here, call now. And so the hunters, you know, was your marketing team. And so, you know, I forgot what year it was that you left, but I read, you know, financials and at the end of 22, which was a brutal year, literally 2 years ago, this month is when the market dropped, like fell out.
Yep.
I remember reading the Roque financials, and I think the marketing spend for the entire year of 2022, even as bad as the second half of the year was like $940 million or something like that. It's public information.
Yeah.
And that was their LO comp, right? That was their version of spending to go hunt, right?
That's right.
That's what I was, Kevin, that's what I was going to say, was that it's such a misnomer because while like we pay on the retail side, the cost of sales and the cost of marketing wrapped up into a single LO comp plan, right? A self-generated lead, we're subsidizing the marketing effort called their relationship or whatever feet in the street kind of efforts that they do to build relationships. And we're compensating for their actual sales activity to close a loan. If you actually backed into the consumer direct, the robotics, the technology, and the marketing spend that Rocket subsidizes, and you add that to the LO comp or the compensation they pay for LOs, I bet you it's not going to be. There is an advantage. They just have it bifurcated and split in a more delineated way. Whereas for us, it's one expense. You know, and then if we add additional marketing expense, then guess what happens to the LO comp? It goes down, right? As a company generated lead.
Yeah. Here's what I would say though, Rick. There has to be a belief, or you have to kind of strategize. And I know I tend to take things philosophical, but you kind of have to believe what brand trust or consumer trust is going to mean versus referral source trust. And you're making a bet on it. And it's a longer term bet. So where you might be right at the very beginning of the curve, where it's like, hey, look, we're really just talking about 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, and there's $980 million in this bucket. If you divide that out across closed loans, and then you take my generated leads and LO comp and marketing spend, you divide that across closed loans, you're really looking at the same thing. But I think what I'm saying, or what I'm asking the industry to decide, is what happens next. Does consumer trust of the brand translate over into the digital world where that spend at the beginning gets amortized across the next 10 years of consumers, and you see precipitous drop where what you just described is going to stay current every time, if not get more expensive when you have LOs start holding you hostage to keep them as opposed to going across the street to your competition.
I mean, there's brand value somewhere, created somewhere when you spend $1 billion on.
And I don't know the answer, by the way. I'm not advocating.
It's something is being created, positive or negative.
Yeah. I'll just say that, the offset there is that, it's about scale, right? So, if Rocket can fund $25 billion in business in 30 days, and scale that cost, well, then they're just more profitable. I mean, they've had quarters where they've made, literally billions of dollars in 3 months net. So, when you compress that cost for a loan origination and your operations is scalable, I mean, they've done a great job. And people don't know, they have like a 47-point checkpoint. Like 47 people can be in a loan at the same time, process it. It's like Tesla. Tesla has the record for creating an automobile. It's like 46 seconds. The number's almost the same, literally. So like they just print, press, boom, deal done, move on, right? And so it's a different game. But where there's room for originators, to get into what you're saying, Jeremy, is that, at the local level with more local experience and a higher level of experience and a more broad experience, originators earn trust on that first phone call. And they're the ones that create trust with them as an individual. And so there is brand trust with Rocket. They've done a good job. You could see all of their, awards for brand loyalty. Local originators earn it. And what's interesting about, Rick's company and my company is we're so unselfish as business owners that we don't put PRMG first. We put the originator first. And by the way, they use that against us, so they go leave, right? So some are loyal and some, move on for whatever reason, right? And so, we back them up, we put them on a pedestal, we make the originator the brand, the trust, we back them up, we have the digital. I send my team to Minneapolis to learn about CRMs and deal flow and AI and make the best marketing system ever. And, and they win, right? And we're okay with that. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but that's the model. And so, and so what's interesting is in a market like we've had the last 2 years where volume has generally declined and rates have generally gone up, everyone's looking for an edge. And, for some originators, they're like, hey, I got to try something else, and if they were doing 5 loans a month and now they're only doing 2 or 3 and losing 1 and down to 2, and they think that, this immediate leader or this marketing system or this price strategy or becoming a bank LO and working for peanuts, literally 70 basis points and doing just jumbos because your market is more of a jumbo market, but maybe you can do more jumbo loans at 70. Like, originators have to think about all these things. And, and so we're a 3-channel lender. Rick, I know you guys are multi-channel as well. And so we think about originators and how to serve them in multiple ways and help them however we can. But from a consumer aspect, Jeremy, trust matters and getting repeat business matters. I haven't originated a loan in 10 years. I still have people in South Florida call me and text me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, hey, man, thanks for doing it. And then, of course, I'd love to make, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 grand, but I just freaking hand it off to someone in my team and go, you guys go have fun with it. So
that's right.
I guess I'm a dummy.
No, I think that's the way that's the way you put your money where your mouth is, right? And support like, hey, this is what we're doing. And let me ask you this then. So do you find that you hear from your originators, they have more questions and concerns over tech, competition and disruption among the industry or within the industry, or are they more worried about disruption of the real estate industry, their referral partners? Is it equal? What are you hearing more of? Which is like sort of dominating your conversations?
Well, I think the real estate one is the most dominant because that's their referral source. This is, our dear friend Barry Beebe, God love him. He's going through the fight of his life right now and poured his heart out to our retail channel
last week. It was amazing. But he used to talk about the travel agents, and he would put travel agents as like, for years. I've watched him at Mastermind for 10 years, and he would put the travel agents up there and how they've all gone by the wayside, right? Like now it's only like your super high end ones. And what is interesting about real estate and origination is the more it spreads out and becomes little bitty one man, one person, teams, shops all over the place, the more ripe it is for a consumer direct marketplace. And so NAR being broken up, in real estate agents being marginalized for their commission is, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, although it seems like almost all conspiracy theories end up being true. But I don't think there's a big plan being hatched here. But disrupting and dislocating a centralized place and way of doing business, realtor commission, just makes everything more ripe for a marketplace and consumer direct activity. And so, there is to obviously talk about the migration to the broker channel, which, depending on whose numbers you look at, it's growing, right? But it's slowly growing. And so the more fractured
now, roughly 25%, something like that. 30.
No, so that number comes from. So it's very interesting. I'm just gonna call it like it is, right? So
RealFriday.
So I have a wholesale channel. Rick's team has a wholesale channel. If we originate the loan and then sell that loan to, say, PennyMac, for example, because they're the largest correspondent out there, that dollar volume gets double counted and the overall volume goes up. So the percentage of wholesale goes down. So to get to that 25% number, whoever's publishing that number, they don't double count the loans. So they don't count a correspondent volume that gets sold like from me to them. So if you go by like the traditional way, the way the entire industry has always done it, which is double count it, because a correspondent channel does play a secondary market role. Sure. It's only 16%. Yeah. So wholesale is it's not really growing, right? But if you strip that out and the double counting, then there's less volume. So now, your numerator and denominator change. So now it grows a little bit more. Like if it grows a couple percent from 14 to 16, that overall number not double counting goes from like 18 to 25. And so either way, like I'm from wholesale. Like I started the business wholesale accounting. I love the channel. We support it. Yeah. We're huge fans. But that is a conversation that people are having. My point is some people are struggling and they feel like, man, I can't scale my business in this retail system that I'm at. I'm not saying PRMG because our system's great. But some other lenders that are out there that aren't doing a good job. I mean, you look at a hedge fund backed distributed retail channel that, let's use Finance of America, for example, because they're out of business. They just stopped investing in their people, right? They didn't invest in their point of sale, didn't invest in their CRM, didn't invest in tech, don't work on deal flow, don't help them with landing pages, don't have a marketing team, don't have a point of sale, don't have all these things that help an originator in distributed retail grow. So what do? Like we're all in, we're still investing, Rick's team's still investing. So what do? They go, well, here's this broker channel. I mean, my pricing can be better, which can help me win some deals on margin. I don't have all the support. And by the way, my LO comp is capped. I have to run my entire business at 275. That's a bit, to move to broker, you're saying, I will never make, ever in the rest of my career in this channel, gross running my entire company at 275. 275. And so that's hard to do after taxes, which is why you see a lot of producing broker owners, right? Which I love, and it's great. It's a phenomenal model. It works. My point is the more fractured real estate and originations get, the more ripe it is for a consumer direct play to come in and strip away that business, because those realtors still get paid commission and those originators still get paid commission, and they're the biggest part of that process. And a consumer direct play does not have to pay that. And so I'm watching. Look, we support all three channels, and I watch all the trends. But I'm just making a little warning there. Look what happened to travel agents. They got disrupted by Kayak and all these other marketplaces out there. because everyone got so fractured and they had to make so much to run their little one-man shop. So I will say there are some very highly scaled shops in the broker channel, and of course the retail channel. And so it's about scale.
Yeah. You know, I was talking to, I don't think he'll mind me mentioning this, Rob Chrisman, and we were kind of talking about this topic, and I think travel agents is a good one. I want to throw another one out there because I'm really curious about this. You know, he mentioned how tax prep after TurboTax was supposed to go entirely digital, right? Oh, TurboTax cracked the code, blah, blah, blah. But really, there are more tax preparers today than there were when TurboTax launched, like human tax preparers as a job description. There's like 90,000 of them or something. But the catch is they make a lot less money, right? So now it's like $60 a pop, $50 a pop or whatever. And so I'm super curious as we think about comps for mortgage, or we think about what these trends are. Travel's a good one I think about a lot, and then tax preparers is the other one. There's still somebody involved for a lot of people because I don't want to do it myself. It's complicated, time consuming. Please let me outsource this to an expert. But the experts don't have command of that same compensation model or whatever because of centralization, scale, and tools that you know KP you're talking about. So just another thought process there.
Well, Jeremy, to your point on that, and I think this plays to KP's point, is that all of a sudden with AI and other technology tools, like intellectual knowledge around product and pricing and how to structure opportunities for consumers is being sort of digitized and democratized. So, I mean, the perfect AI system will take your best loan officer at PRMG or at Sierra and will make every single loan officer in the organization and that good and that responsive, right? So then all of a sudden, the real differentiator isn't how good you are as far as your ability to structure deals. It becomes how quickly can you drive as many leads and many opportunities to my organization, which I think will in some ways commodify the loan officer, which sort of potentially, to your point, it could call for a wider range or wider number of potential loan officers to get the business, but to pay them substantially less, because you don't need to know as much anymore. All you got to do is have sort of the AI tool engine sort of do the analysis, and then you have the highest probability outcome.
Yeah, instead of doing the taxes, now you're doing within the taxes, right? Yeah.
Well, so you guys know, like, I won't call myself a venture capitalist, but I do invest in companies, and so Halcyon is a company I'm invested in, which, by the way, they just got approved with Fannie Mae and will be loaded as Halcyon. It's a direct API with the IRS, and so kind of blows out the whole 4506 market completely. And you're getting data straight from the source, right? So if we're all about like this single source, truth data set, I mean, if I'm getting income information straight from the IRS, then I know it's legit from a quality control standpoint, and it's quick and it's fast. And so part of their business model for Halcyon is they have created a marketplace for tax preparation. So you're not just getting a quick, easy, fast, cheap data set directly from the IRS. How many times you have borrowers, especially self-employed, that have to like get their taxes in order at the last minute? Well, now you have this Uber Lyft style system to order tax prep. And so and so that kind of tech and that kind of marketplace, all these things do is just bring all the pricing down. You look at brokers, right? You're talking about brokers, to your point about compensation, Jeremy, our data on brokers and pricing, like let's take Miami, for example. Miami's getting more expensive. It has been getting more expensive. It's becoming more of a jumbo market. It's not Bay Area yet, but it's more expensive to live there. So less FHA business, less conforming business, more jumbo business. Our broker data set, like 75% of all of our brokers that send us loans in Miami go borrower paid financing. So even if they're at a 225 comp plan to run their entire operation and business, they're still going borrower paid and giving money back and taking less commission just to do the deals. There's so much borrower paid pricing. And look, banks put pressure on that. Credit unions, cheap cost of funds and capital for banks and credit unions. all these marketplaces, all these lenders that do high volume at scale with good tech leading the way, they're forcing the price and commission down as well. And so, so to your point, Jeremy, yeah, pricing is going to keep coming down, but there's still such a fat spread there that I think, when the market gives back and there's scalable, huntable refinance business, consumer direct plays will continue to win. The pricing advantage will be massive. What will be interesting to see is what happens with the purchase market over time and how automated you can make a purchase deal. I mean, look, if you're doing non-QM, you're dealing with some borrowers that need an originator. I'm not saying an A-paper borrower doesn't need an originator. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're an originator, and one of my keys to success, I've been telling originators for the last 2 years, is learn non-QM. The guidelines are so complicated. The regulation in mortgage is complicated. The regulation and tax prep and from the IRS is complicated, which is why there's 90,000 tax. The more regulation there is, the more just
complexity
stuff to have to sift through and complexity, the more you need an originator to help navigate that process. Same thing with tax prep.
One of the things when I joined the industry, KP, just a fun question here, was they would always talk about purchase season. And then as we grew in the industry, I think, and the shifts in between low rates, COVID, and now this, we kind of gone away from a purchase season. Do you still talk about that? Do people still believe there's a purchase season, or is it like,
just
hey,
ended.
Man, a house comes on the market, we go for it. There is no purchase season. It's like game
no, it
on
just ended.
Like,
brother, it's over. It just ended. Like, absolutely, there's a purchase season. Purchase season just ended this month.
So April to June, and then you don't see. Okay,
I'd say March.
Okay, March to June, and then you don't see anything after that. Okay.
Yeah, and in the colder nether regions, like Detroit, you guys probably start in April and maybe go to July. I know I hear from my New Jersey teams out there. They're like, "Why do you always say spring purchase season ends in June? July's very busy for us." And so I get it. Like it does kind of slide, but
so
yeah. I mean, it's a 4-month peak season.
Yeah.
And I love, here's another way to quantify that with data. If you don't just hear me rambling on a Friday. If you look at Altos research and the listings data that Mike Simonson and team, which now they're part of HousingWire, there's a seasonality for when price cuts start. There's a seasonality of when listings begin to grow because there's less demand because it's no longer purchase season. And they show, like, they line up all the years on top of each other. It's the same curve every year, almost every year.
That's growing right now. I saw all the stats this week that there's more inventory. It's like, well, why is there more inventory? That's exactly it.
And demand, but that's also, Brock, that's also what's interesting is that listing has increased earlier this year than every year since, obviously 20 and 21 are anomalies.
Expected to see it,
but rates are high. Right. And so when rates spike up, people buy less and affordability goes down. I mean, the Fed, for as long as they were 3 years ago in March of 21, when which, by the way, we had 2.6% PCE 3 years ago in March. And the Fed was saying the inflation was transitory and it went up to 9 or whatever. And here we are, then they cut a year later. They started raising. They started raising a year later in March of 22. And so here we are over 2 years, into that hiking cycle. I don't think they've raised since last July. It's almost a year now since the last raise. And we're finally back down to 2.6 core PCE as of this morning. That's a soft landing. I mean, where we're at with rates, okay, let's call it 7%. Just a little bit above 7%, the demand falls off precipitously. Listings go up. There's less business. Rates come under 7. You have a 6 handle in front of it. Bars jump. Bars, look, keep it simple. 6 or 7. Which one are you going to wait for, right? And so this little spot where we've been at has been kind of like the little, we're just going to eke it out from here. And so, that's where I've seen rates to be in like that little, homeostasis stage, right? It goes up a little bit, demand falls, it goes down a little bit, it picks up. And so that, I think we're in that spot right now for rates, but the trend is definitely for rates to come down over time. It's been coming down since October. And I think small businesses are really hurting right now. The economy's hurting. And I think, if we don't get a Fed rate cut in July, it's September. September's in the cards for the first cut.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly how low rates went. Was it mid sixes maybe in March? Yeah, and that was a record month for us on real estate transactions, right? So it was like that little bit of difference was insane. We work with mostly first time home buyers, right? So that was like that was really notable for us. So
yeah, Black Knight data, which is now owned by ICE, I guess it's ICE Mortgage Data, I believe is the official name. When rates went from 7 to 8, okay, going from June of 22 all the way up to October of last year, 5 million borrowers were priced out of home affordability. So from 7 to 8%, 5 million borrowers. Okay, like we don't even do that many loans in a year. It's an entire year just sucked out just from one point. So anyway, I mean it's a massive number, and so that it is a big part of the seasonality and the demand. There's
pent-up demand somewhere from that, right? I don't know. It's not going to all come out at mid sixes, but like
deployment, diamonds, diapers, debt, divorce, downsizing, death. Some people like to throw in diploma, but I don't know anybody that really can afford a house once they get a degree and they're not working. But the 7 Ds, man, like that stuff never stops. So there's your demand. It never, ever stops. That didn't stop because the rates went up or down.
Going to add my pitch here for housing as economic stimulus. Jobs that create houses. Jobs that create houses drive economic stimulus into communities, and we're not talking about it. It's not part of housing policy nationally. So we need to be creating jobs that create houses, but that's for a different podcast.
I moved out to Detroit and bought a house for a job. That worked out well.
There you go. Well, come to Detroit and buy a house, everyone. Yeah. There's where your investment is. KP, it's great to see you, man.
Yeah, great. We really appreciate you jumping on, KP. Expect every guest that joins our show, Greg Scherer can testify to this, that every guest that comes on our show always receives a Real Fridays boost, both in popularity, impressions, as well as invites for LinkedIn. So expect your popularity to really sort of go up. No one's heard of you up until now, but boy, expect this. All
my followers. It's gonna blow you up on LinkedIn finally.
So
I think all tongue in cheek aside for all of us, I think you guys are all servant leaders, and I think what we're all going for is just to help others. I mean, and if we help someone with we're not selfish, we're not ambitious, we're not out for our company only and only our model and only what we do and lining our pockets. Like that's not who we are, right? And so this whole point of this conversation, all the conversations and the way all of us operate on this call is let's grow this system together. Let's grow this collaborative, LinkedIn family and this podcast and our business, and let's just make each other stronger and have fun doing it. I think there's too many assholes in the world. We don't need a bunch of self-serving. We don't need 4 more of them. So thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Here.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, Brock. Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah,
Talk to you guys soon.
Take care, everybody.
Have a great weekend.